We are activating your unique self-discovery one show at a time. The Orchard of Wisdom Self-Discovery podcast are at your fingertips, just waiting to inspire and invite you in discovering just how awesome you really are and how to navigate through life in joy, enrichment, personal abundance, in mind, body, spirit, heart, and soul. All the people we bring you are here to serve you on your journey of life. Do enjoy our next show. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Mental Health Awareness right here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy, and my wonderful guest today is Dr. Carol Lieberman. Roe versus Wade. Oh my God, what do we do about it? How did it even happen in the first place? And what can we do about it now to turn the tide? And what is it doing to our mental health? In response to the Supreme Court's Roe versus Wade passed recently, the country saw an outpouring of condemnation and relief from the individuals across the political spectrum. The decision was removed from federal protection for the right of abortions and has sparked a series of warnings from medical and economic experts alike, forecasting severe mental health toll on this reversal might take. Americans' mental health already is in a state of decline due to COVID-19, and it took a turn for the worse during this global pandemic. Compounding these trends are a shortage of mental health care providers and the economic barriers some might face when seeking a treatment. Dr. Carol Lieberman is well known as America's psychiatrist and as the host of Dr. Carol's Coach on voiceamerica.com and on the Terrorist Therapist podcast. She's a forensic psychiatrist, expert witness, best-selling award-winning author of 4 books, 2 on terrorism and 2 on relationships. So who better to talk to today about what we can do for our mental health during this time and what we can do to change the tide. Can we change the tide, Dr. Carol? Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
It's a tough one. You know, we thought that with Roe versus Wade, that protection was there. We thought that women were kind of getting a bit more equality and being recognized more. And then all of a sudden we see it being turned back 50, 60 years. And I don't know if you've seen Handmaid's Tale, but it's getting more and more scary. I don't know if that became a template for them or if this was a prediction. I'm hoping that it wasn't a prediction, but the mental health that it takes on a woman, if she falls pregnant, it takes 2 to tango. Why isn't a man even mentioned in this as being held accountable? Why is this put all on the woman?
Well, because despite what some people would have you believe, it is the women who get pregnant.
Yes, but not alone. She didn't do it on her own.
Well, yes, absolutely. But what I mean is, if a man abandons her or doesn't want to take responsibility, of course, it's easier for him to walk away,
yes.
which is, of course, very unfortunate and, of course, unethical. And we can, lots of other uns. It is sad. I want to say up front, for full transparency, I am a Republican.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the one thing that I disagree with Republicans about. I am pro-choice. And actually, I think if someone is going to be anti-vaccine, being against the idea that we have vaccine mandates, that we're being mandated, made to take the vaccine, the COVID vaccine, then I was very much against the mandate of that, it's our body ourselves. We should be free to make a choice in terms of whether or not we get the vaccine, because it's our body. When we let the government intrude upon our body, then that is giving up our last shred of liberty. So if that is that way for vaccines, at least that's my view on vaccines, and other people too, then the same thing should be true for abortions. Mm-hmm. We should not be allowing the government to dictate whether we have vaccines or don't have abortions. Mm-hmm. Our bodies are really, that is what freedom is. How do that's the last barrier, mm-hmm. To protect freedom. our
Yeah.
body.
We have, and I do numerous shows on this, on the forgotten children, and I've got an entire book series coming out next year with participants who are on the forefront of children that have been abandoned or been neglected, or families just can't afford them and living in poverty. And, you know, when you have statistics of 70% of foster children are in jail, you know, it's too high a statistic. And it's, you know, whether it was consensual or not to have sex with someone, and something happened that they, you know, the woman fell pregnant, if they cannot look after that child, if they cannot raise that child, how are they going to honor that child? And is it going to be another one lost in society?
Yes, even if they just don't want the child,
Right.
even if they did have enough money to theoretically support the child, if the child is unwanted, that stays with that child for the rest of their life. They know they're unwanted, you know, they feel it. And so yes, and you know, the foster care system is already incredibly overburdened, and you know, it's some of why they end up in jail is partly because of their genetics, you know, the problems that they inherited from their parents, who, you know, then ended up being on drugs or being, you know, having other problems for why they're put into the foster system to begin with. And then also because, you know, unfortunately, yes, a lot of some people who take on foster children do not have the best interests of these children in mind. They have the interest of getting that check every month.
Yeah.
So, so yes, it's very unfortunate. And, you know, but it's when you think about what you were starting to say before, like how we got here, besides all the political, you know, how we got here, it's the overturning of Roe v. Wade. It's hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. And that is why we are having such tremendous, you know, protests and everything else, because even women who, you know, even if they have no intention of getting pregnant or it's not affecting them personally, it's the idea that it feels like an assault on all women.
Yes.
But, you know, I wonder whether you agree with me on this. I think in part, again, not talking about the judicial and the legislative and the political, all of that, but just psychological. You know, I think that this is also a backlash. And of course, nobody would admit it who were trying to overturn Roe v. Wade. But I think that some of it was a backlash, perhaps unconscious, against feminism, against these years since Roe v. Wade was originally passed. There has been, you know, all these outspoken feminists, of which I am not one. And I think that that has done a lot of harm, a lot of good too, in some cases, you know, getting more equal salaries and so on. But it has really men psychologically, including men who have nothing to do with Roe v. Wade, have felt threatened, intimidated, angry by the aggressive stance that feminists have taken. You know, it's everybody should get equal pay and equal rights and all of that, but there was and is an aggressiveness to it that turned people off, and I think that it was very wrong.
The pendulum, when it's trying to find a balance, will always swing too high from one side to the other.
Yes.
And, you know, and that extremism is there. And also, let's face it, men have been brought up always to be considered more important than a woman. Their role, quote, is meant to be more important in life than a woman's. And for a lot of men, unless they are being brought up to respect and a woman and all that she can and is capable of doing, they're going to feel threatened by a woman that is empowered.
Yes.
And I think that they don't quite yet know how to handle that. There are many men that really embrace that empowerment of a woman, but there are some that are very intimidated by it.
And, you know, you see it even more clearly in the dating scene. You know, because of how it has affected men to be less like men. You know, they are less like men. There's no courting, there's really no dating. There's, it's men don't, I mean, there's this equal, you go out to dinner when people meet, particularly like on dating sites, which are pretty ridiculous, but then they meet to go on their first date. And whether it's coffee or dinner or whatever, the man is expecting the woman to pay her half. Mm-hmm. Now, relationships don't work like that because there is a natural idea of things that the man is supposed to be the, I know I'm talking people, some people are going to watch this or listen to this and think, is she in the 1950s?
It is how the roles have always been played, right? It is.
And it worked better then. I mean, the thing is, and of course, I'm a psychiatrist, you're a professional, we're talking about, I'm not saying that women should go back to just baking cookies.
Right. Yeah.
And staying at home, although, quite frankly, that's when children were raised better,
yes,
when there were two parents in the household who could give them attention and so on. But I'm not really talking, to that extreme necessarily, but I am saying that there's, it's very hard for men and women to know how to act with each other these days. When
we haven't got a manual.
Yes.
They haven't got a manual. And also, as you said about the courting, there is something about the courting and getting to know someone and an anticipation building and a connection building. And, nowadays, it does seem to be, I like you, forget about the coffee, let's jump into bed.
Exactly.
And they're missing something. They're missing a great deal by, ignoring that kind of courting type, getting to know each other, building up essential tension between them before jumping into bed. And I think they're missing a great deal by doing that. And I think that it devalues not only sex, but it devalues both man and woman to do this.
Yes, I agree with you. My 2 books on relationships are Bad Boys, Why We Love Them, How to Live with Them, and When to Leave Them.
Yes.
Bad Girls, Why Men Love Them, and How Good Girls Can Learn Their Secrets. And there really is an inborn kind of, men who, when women make it too easy, devalue themselves, whether it's by paying for the coffee or the meal or jumping into bed, showing the man that, that they can be had right away, or even worse, chasing after the man. There's no way to sort of bring back the balance of that relationship to have the respect. And vice versa. Of course, men do things that lose respect, for them by the women. But it's in other words, I'm not, making this stuff up. This is the way it is, that there needs to be a kind of, even for women too, like the reason why women like bad boys, it has to do with their having had a dysfunctional relationship with their father.
Yes.
And depending upon what kind of relationship they had with their father, it points them unconsciously towards a certain type of bad boy.
Yeah.
And I described 12,
I'm one of those.
And I described 12 different types of bad boys. So for example, and these women, they don't like good boys because the good boys are too easy. And it's the intimacy, the ready intimacy that sort of intimidates people. And so, for example, the biggest thing now is divorce now. It's been that way for like the last 10, 20 years, that more and more couples are getting divorced. And that has affected their offspring, because they see their parents being hurt, one or both being devastated by the breakup of the marriage. And they learn, from the time they're young that, I don't want that to happen to me. I'm not going to give my heart so much that I can be devastated by a breakup, whether it's in a marriage or even in dating. And so, for example, one of the types is the frazzled frog, or the fixer-upper lover. I named them after fairy tales. The fixer-upper lover That's a woman who hasn't had a father, either because he died or because of divorce and he went to another family, or he is still in the house, but he's just emotionally not available. And so she picks a man who who needs fixing up. He's like a frog, and she.
You're talking about me. Father died at 11. I married my father type. Yes.
And so, but you married a man thinking unconsciously, at least, that he was never going to leave you because he needed you.
Yeah,
he needed you to fix him up.
Yeah.
And the problem is that when these frogs, these frazzled frogs, get fixed up,
bye-bye.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's what all the bad boys are and the bad girls. They're heartbreakers. They leave, they abandon you eventually, but just in 12 different ways for each.
Yeah.
And so there needs to be and so the way things are now, not only, I mean, now of course with COVID that didn't help things because people were stopped dating or were afraid to date, although well, it's still left to be seen. It may be that because people didn't want to date in person, some people, and they dated, so to speak, over Zoom, that it may turn out that they got to know each other better before they did actually meet in person. And there may be more hope for those relationships.
Exactly. Getting back to depression, COVID certainly has, I said partway through COVID, once the pandemic is over, which of course it isn't, once it is completely over, we're going to have a mental pandemic and a financial pandemic. And this is what we're in right now. And the COVID hasn't gone away. So people can't say, well, that's passe. It keeps flaring up and we're still living in that, where is it going to be next? What is it going to do? And so people are still on tenterhooks. And of course, jobs aren't as secure. We're going into a recession and we've got so much piled on people right now that many of the shows that I've done is just people trying to kind of swim through the molasses, and get to clearer waters. And it's there's a heavy weight on everyone. Then the war in Ukraine, and then food shortages and gas prices, and it's just piled on top of each other, and people are at their limit. And I think that the Roe versus Wade scenario just kind of broke the camel's back, so to speak. And this was just all too much, along with, again, masses of shootings, where it seems to be the death of children doesn't matter as long as I've got my gun, I'm free. It's that is another issue altogether. There's just too much out there right now for everyone, to take all of this. The mental strain is really causing people to snap.
Yes, absolutely. And we need to do, it's so, of course, Dr. Fauci getting COVID and then getting a worse version because he took Paxlovid, so even he, not that this is a new idea, but we now all see it more clearly that even he doesn't really know what he's doing or saying. He's been he's made the whole situation worse by his changing every day, changing what he tells people to do. And really, he's just looking for a new thing to say on television is really what that's all about. But the COVID now, for the most part, is much less serious. It's more like the flu, but it also is more easy to get.
Yes.
And so the problem is not so much about how, because it's not, I was just hearing a percentage yesterday, the number of people going into ICU and all that is really very low compared to what it used to be. But the problem is you still don't want to get it.
No.
Because of the possibility of long COVID.
Yeah.
So, but one thing I will say, I've been trying, I was talking during the main part of COVID, I was talking about this idea of having free choice about the vaccine, not having it be a mandate. But I have said, and I still say, that as for children, this whole thing about making vaccines for children for under 5 even, I think is preposterous and dangerous. And parents should not go along with that, because there is no way, I have, besides an MD, I have a master's in public health.
Mhm.
And I have been criticizing, the way this whole thing has been done, because there really has been no public health positive. In Public Health 101, you learn that the way, if there's some kind of a pandemic, or some kind of a big widespread mental health or health problem, not just mental health, a widespread health problem, the way to cure it or what to do about it is by telling people positive steps that they can take to combat this, not by terrifying people, which is what was done with the statistics every day, and the mandates about the vaccines and all of that, terrifying people to get these vaccines. That is not the way that you address a public health problem. So I created this saying for how people should remember to what to do, in other words, to stay physically and psychologically healthy. And I will need to, I don't know if I can remember it off the top. I haven't said it in a while, but let me see. It's Heal Myself, an acronym. So the H stands for healthy, nutritious food. E stands for exercise. A stands for aromatherapy. L stands for laughter, at least an hour a day. Heal myself. M is for music or meditation. Y is for your choice of vitamins and supplements. Myself. S is for sleep, at least 8 hours. E is for I said exercise. E is for, I forgot the E for the moment, but L, oh, I'm sorry, I'm screwing it up.
That's okay.
Let me just, let me see if I can find
I mean,
it.
they're all really good points.
I mean, F is for follow your dreams. Okay.
Right.
L is for one. E is for, one of them is for avoiding gloom and doom. And because I would always say, Fauci is Mr. Gloom and Doom, so avoid being affected by him. Anyhow, I gave you most of them. I can tell you, it's on my website, which I have a website, pleasefirefauci.com, and there's a heading, America's prescription for America. So they're all there. But the idea is to do things that are helpful to your physical and mental health, and rather than, that's taking the negative approach. So really, a lot of people would have been helped more. I mean, I did for a while. I was doing television and radio and doing as much as I could to get this anagram out. Because that is what you do for a public health crisis. So
empower the people, right?
When
empower the people. Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, a positive attitude, we know, has a positive effect on all of your organs and your entire system. And if you do if feeling the doom and gloom and feeling that everything is out to get you, it does bring you down, which starts breaking you down. You get the dis-ease, which can manifest into a disease. So staying up, however hard, when you're bombarded, is essential to do, to find something that's going to lift you up. And when you feel you're going down, just put a brake on it right there and find something in your arsenal to lift yourself back up again, which is not anybody else's responsibility. Actually, it is our responsibility. Yes. Of our own health and well-beingness. It is knowing that, no, that's too much. I can't hear that anymore. That's got to be switched off. I need to go into this zone and do this exercise, listen to music, watch something funny that will lift me up, because that is better for my overall health.
Yes. And I mean, it used to be, and to some, now that it's coming back, people are like drawn. I mean, if it bleeds, it leads. That's the news phrase, so people are kind of drawn to doom scrolling.
Yes.
you
Yes.
know, and we have to just stop that.
Yeah.
And we have to
Yeah.
understand how that really, and what it does. And there were studies way before COVID, there were studies about what loneliness and isolation does to people. And they have proven that, you know, it attacks, and stress, of course, it attacks the part of your body that is the most weak. So if you have stomach problems, or you get headaches, or, you know, whatever, each person is different, whatever the part of their body is the weakest, that's going to be affected most by the isolation or the stress. And people have symptoms, you know.
So, you know, as far as Roe versus Wade, with the added stress that it's putting on a woman now,
Yes.
it's not just the, you know, can I get an abortion? It is somebody going to tell on me to get money? You know, it seems to be people can get paid if they tell on someone. And it just seems to be we're in persecution, we're not in support. And, you know, you're already dictating that this woman, no matter what, has to go through the whole 9 months, no matter the situation, whether it's rape or whether it was consensual. But again, it is her body. She is responsible for that child coming into the world. And who has the right to tell her what she can do?
Nobody. You know, I made a list of the 7 tragedies that will skyrocket because of overturning Roe v. Wade. Unwanted babies, we talked about that. Filicide, killing of children, child
Yes.
abuse, domestic violence, maternal suicide, divorce, and destruction of the American family altogether.
Right. And those are all absolutely prevalent right now. This is already going on. Do we need to escalate it to 110, 150? You know, why can't we just clean up our own backyard right now and deal with the crisis that is in front of us, which is everything you've just said, without adding that burden on top of it?
Yes. You know, did you hear of the story? I was just reading about it yesterday and today. The story of a 10-year-old girl in, you know it, in Ohio, who was forced to cross state lines to get an abortion. But, you know, there's a now follow-up to this story, in that the mother is defending the man, the 27-year-old illegal immigrant, who confessed to raping her, this 10-year-old girl, and the mother is defending her. Now, that does not make any sense. You would think that if somebody raped your daughter, you'd want to kill them, right?
Yeah, that would be my first instinct. Hold me back.
Yeah. Yes. And so I was trying to figure out, you know, why that could be.
Yeah.
And I came up with either, they were in the mother's, in the boyfriend, well, they were in this man's house when they were being interviewed by some news reporter. And so I wonder whether either he's the mother's boyfriend, perhaps, and she wants to get him out, or whether she knows that he didn't do it, that one of her sons did, and she's trying to protect her son. Those are the two things that I've come up with so far, but it just doesn't make any sense.
You know, again, I've had some horrific shows with people who have shared things that have gone on where grandfathers and fathers rape their children and the mother knows about it. Nobody ever comes to that child's defense, and the child doesn't know. You know, this doesn't feel good, mommy, and then mommy just turns a blind eye. And you know, they have found the strength and the courage and the ability to go through the healing process and then become a beacon of hope for other people. But they're the few against the masses that will end up either drug addicts, very often prostitutes, or committing suicide.
Yes, absolutely. It is, yes. You know, I think a lot of parents, a lot of mothers don't realize the psychological impact of whether the person gets pregnant or not, just of ignoring, you know, if a child has been abused, especially if it's a family member. like, let's keep it a secret. That's our secret. We don't want to get daddy in
Right,
trouble.
the shame and blame, right, instead of the protection of the child.
Right, because if daddy goes to prison, then
Yes.
we won't have any money, right?
Right.
That
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yes.
And it affects the child for their whole life.
Yes.
And a lot of the times they are more angry at the mother for not doing something about it than at the man for raping them or sexually abusing them.
Or it's a cycle that had happened to the mother. Well, it happened to me and I survived. Right. Well, did you like it? No. So why are you letting your child go through it? There are people that haven't gone through their recovery. They've just repeated the same cycle.
Yes. Now with this Ohio family that I was just talking about, fortunately DNA will tell the story.
Yeah. The truth will be revealed.
Yes. At some point.
Yeah. But I mean, the fact that she had to go cross state.
Yes.
Nobody should deny a child who's been raped or a woman whose health is at risk. Yes, right? Or even an abusive husband. You should never ever deny a woman that, no matter what other circumstances, but those are medical ones. That we've got to stop looking at physical medical issues and mental medical issues as being separate. Right. They are not.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, it is true. Of course. So now it goes to the states. And, and that's another, so each state, I was just reading something today about how some women of childbearing age are moving depending upon what their state's rules are going to be. There are also women getting their tubes tied. There are more men going in for vasectomies, and that, I mean, that's unfortunate for all of these things. I mean, yes, if a man is married and he and his wife decide they don't want any more children and he wants to do that, then fine, get a vasectomy instead of having to use other kinds of birth control. Fine, if they're both, in agreement for that. But it just seems like, it's a lot of extraneous kinds of things that shouldn't have to happen. I was friends in medical school, although he was older than I was, but I went to medical school at the University of Louvain in Belgium. And there was my best friend there for about 3 years. Our first 3 years there was Barnett Slepian. And I don't know if you recognize that name, but he went to, first of all, it took a lot of effort for him to get into medical school to begin with, because, besides grades and stuff, because he didn't have the money. He worked for years to try to be able to afford to put himself through medical school. Then he went to Louvain, and then he was running out of money. And so he transferred to Guadalajara. But for about 3 years, he was in Louvain. We were best friends. In fact, I rode on his motorcycle across Europe, holding on to him, which now that I look back at it, I think, what?
Yeah. Wouldn't do it today with today's traffic, right?
on the highways and all of that, but it was wonderful. And he became an OBGYN in New York, and he lived near Albany, in upstate New York. And he did abortions. I mean, he didn't just do abortions. He was an OBGYN. He did all the things that OBGYN people do, doctors do. But he did do abortions. And he was the one, when I say this, you'll remember, he was the one that was shot and killed. A man, an anti-abortion man, shot through Bart's window and killed him. And he had a wife and 4 children. And that was kind of the end of that. And he was such a good person, and he worked so hard to get where he got.
I know. And this is also something that seems to be happening. And most certainly, I mean, we're seeing crime everywhere. I'm in Canada, and we're seeing hell of a lot more crime coming up than ever before. And of course, when you look at America, switch on the news, it's another shooting, another mass shooting, another murder. I mean, it's just continuous that we've become almost jaded. about it, because it
Yeah.
is continuous. But, who is it by? The people that go and buy these guns and go in and mass shoot a whole load of children, or people that go into shopping malls or senior centers? In their own psyche, are they just so saturated with the misery? Are they so angry and they don't know what to do with it? What is in their psyche that they can go and do this?
I'll explain this to you, because this is one of my biggest frustrations. I have been talking about this since before Columbine.
Mm-hmm.
About what makes a mass shooter. And it's the same thing today, except that there's more stress in the world, but it's the same thing today as it was before Columbine. We had fewer mass shooters then, but and the pattern is that it starts out with a dysfunctional family.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's abuse or neglect, or the parents are substance abusers, or there's domestic violence, various kinds of dysfunction. And that causes them to not be able to, or to not to not choose to, because the parents are in control of this, to not be good enough parents to the child, and to not know what the child is doing. And that leaves the child with a lot of free time. And there's, there's a phenomenon now called bedroom terrorists. It's not really known, that term isn't really known in the States, but with my terrorist therapist podcast, and I've been the terrorist therapist since 9/11, helping people cope with the memories of 9/11 and the ongoing threat of terrorism. Of course, nowadays in America,
it's domestic terrorism.
Terrorists are being, are not being paid attention to, radical Islamist terrorists. And because there are enough people shooting,
yes,
Americans.
Exactly. They don't need to do anything. Just the Americans are doing it to themselves.
Exactly. Yeah. But just to say, it is true, though. I know that we are not paying any attention, although quite frankly, I get thousands and thousands of people listening to my terrorist therapist podcast. And I can only measure it on one of the places where it is. It's on all kinds of podcast places, but on renegadetalkradio.com, I can see the statistics, and there are like over 5,000 people listening to each podcast. Mm-hmm. So there is an interest in radical Islamist terrorists. Yeah. But as well there should be, because they have not disappeared. They are still very much recruiting and all of that, and still plan to take over America and Canada too. What was I going to say? Oh, I want to get back to the pattern, what makes a mass shooter. So first it's a dysfunctional family. Then they also, I was saying, so the parents aren't paying attention to what they're doing. And what they are doing, oh yes, bedroom terrorists. What they are doing is a phenomenon called bedroom terrorists, which is during the lockdowns for COVID, people, all of us, had more time on our hands than ever. I mean, I know, yes, we were working from home and so on, many of us. I find this, I found it, it saved time from driving to my office, yes. And,
I just got busier. Yes.
But anyway, so kids, especially teenagers or even younger than teenagers, and 20s especially, that age group from kids to 20s especially, but really lots of people spent that time playing violent video games.
Yeah.
And I was the head of the National Coalition for Television Violence for a long time. But we didn't just look at television violence, we looked at movies, we looked at music, and then with the coming out of video games. And there are studies upon studies. We did some, but most of the studies were done by people all over the world for decades. This isn't really a new fact. Mm-hmm. It's just a lot of people don't want to acknowledge it. The more hours of media violence you consume, the more aggressive you become. This has been proven time and time again.
Yes.
And
It's brainwashing for the psyche, right?
yes, and video game violence is much more powerful in its effect than just watching a television show or a movie or whatever. So here are these people playing these games, shooting, and it's practicing. We use that in America to train the military to shoot, to overcome their natural resistance to shooting someone.
Right.
And yet, they want to say at the same time that that it doesn't affect normal people, right? So, I mean, not that military aren't normal, but you know what I mean, that it doesn't affect people who aren't in the military.
Right. Civilians.
Civilians, there we go. So they have been practicing and practicing for 2 years, approximately, at least. And then they come out of the lockdowns loaded for bear.
Right.
Also, these kids with these dysfunctional homes are typically the ones who get targeted by the bullies, because they have a radar for the kids who are sort of unhappy nerds, not nerds the way not computer nerds, but I mean the kids who are more vulnerable to being affected by a bully.
Right.
And so they target them, or at the very least they isolate them. And so that happens for a lot of them too. Then some of them get into drugs and alcohol. Then in some cases, then something disappointing happens to them, or something that shames them, or some kind of a rejection, and it sets them off. And, in America, the knee-jerk reaction to that, for each mass shooting, some politicians, leftist Democrat politicians, are delighted with each mass shooting. I know that is kind of going to be, some people are going to be horrified, but it is true, because that gives them the next, a new way to say we have to ban guns. It is not about the guns. It is about the parenting. It's about kids.
Isn't it also about the access to guns, though? There are certain guns civilians do not need.
Well, but the thing is,
and also you're selling it to an 18-year-old.
Okay, there could be some
accountability,
some way to make it a little harder for certainly for certain limitations, just like there are for for alcohol, or certain
you have to be 21 in America to go and buy a beer, yet at 18 you can go and buy arsenal of guns.
Yes.
Does that sound right?
No, that doesn't sound right. I mean, there should be, the only reason why I'm hesitating at all is because it is a slippery slope, because there are some people who are determined to try to rid us of the Second Amendment, which gives each American
I think it's more about modifying it to protect people. I mean, like a common sense factor, where at the present moment there doesn't seem to be any common sense out there at all on both sides.
Well, I'm not saying that but the thing is that the gun, even like in the state, let's talk about the July 4th shooter.
Right.
Because he's the most recent, and he checks all the boxes of the things that the pattern, of these mass shooters. His parents, his mother, as an example, his mother, when he was 2 years old, she left him in a hot car for 27 minutes, and she was convicted of it. She was also convicted of domestic violence towards somebody in her car, which probably was him, in 2015.
They didn't take him away from her?
No. And there was domestic violence in the house between the parents. The parents got divorced. The mother is some kind of a healer, so she holds herself out to be some kind of a healer. But this young man, Robert Cremo III is his name, and he gave so many red flags. One of them was he drew a picture, a silhouette in black, of a man, young man, holding a rifle on the mother's wall of her house. He did videos. He was a very good, he was a rap artist, and but not, I mean, I don't like rap, but he did these rap videos that really had that if it wasn't foretelling what he ultimately did, you would think of it as fairly talented. He really put these things together, and it seemed very professional. And he had 16,000 people downloading his videos. He did 3. I watched them, and one of them, for example, he talked about. He was in a school classroom, and he talked about this girl who was in his class who he had a crush on, and she rejected him, and then it kind of went into this mass shooting. He became a school shooter in this video. And then there's another video of the street where he ultimately did that he did shoot down, in the parade. And so his family never looked at his online music videos. They never took the time to look at that. In 2019, the police were called to their house because he was saying that he was suicidal. Somebody called the police. It might not have been his parents even, because parents of friends of his knew he was suicidal, and some of them did tell his parents, and they did nothing. They didn't get him into therapy. So that's another part of this pattern, that the person is either gets no therapy or has gotten inadequate therapy. So the police came also in 2019 because he had threatened to kill his family. At least one of the times they called some kind of mental health professional, but nothing was done. He wasn't hospitalized, which is what should have happened, because if you're a danger to self, a danger to others, or gravely disabled, you can be involuntarily hospitalized. And of course, he was those things. So and then he never got treatment afterwards. And so there were all these red flags, and nobody did anything. And then, of course, ultimately, we know he shot down the parade route. Oh, and the violent video games. His favorite was Hitman. And that's a game where Agent 47 is the star. And he had 47 tattooed on his face. He had the number 47 put on his car. And he did other things with the number 47. So he was identifying as this hitman. And then he also liked Call of Duty. And he played the character that was on top of a roof with a rifle.
A sniper.
And that's what he did, on the July 4th parade. So all of these things, his parents, first of all, were dysfunctional in themselves. And they didn't pay any attention to what he was doing. And we have this, and the same thing, the shooter who killed people in the grocery store in New York, upper New York State. He was planning this for months. And again, his parents, didn't pay any attention to him. And he killed a cat, and he chopped off the head of a cat. And he showed it to his, which is one of the signs of a sociopath.
Yeah, exactly.
Torture of animals, fire setting, and bedwetting. And so he showed his mother this cat, and she gave him a box to bury it in the backyard. She didn't think, maybe he needs therapy.
No reprimand, no questioning, no nothing. Here's a box. Right. Yeah.
So I'm not saying that there can't be and shouldn't be things to make it more difficult, but but what I was starting to say was, in where was it, in Chicago, in where the July 4th shooting took place in Illinois, there were red flag rules, that you were supposed to report it. And his father, after 2019, when the police came for these 2 reasons, the father signed something to give him permission to have guns. So,
Yeah.
So,
I think this is where the breakdown is. You know, we're going to take a child away, put it in a foster home where the people are just taking the money and they don't care about the kids. And on the other hand, I also know some foster parents that are absolutely wonderful.
yes,
But it is, why are we not taking the family unit and helping them be a family?
yes,
Supporting them instead of waiting for things to explode, where you then take the children away, or the wife's been beaten, or this husband's been shot, you know, until it gets to that level. There isn't enough education on actually being a parent, especially if there's trouble or economic situations or mental stress. We
yes,
need to be there for that support. That should be
yes.
free support for families to go to get the therapy they need, to get whatever else they need to stabilize the family. If you ignore the unit, then you're going to have the repercussions along the line.
Yes, or even um also not or but also as well, classes in school,
Yeah,
in high school, how to be a good parent.
right.
They have other classes in America that are not good, that's going on in schools. um but with, like, for example, they're teaching kids how to be transsexuals, and where they should have been teaching them how to be good parents. That's, I mean, anyway.
The
I
thing at the
won't go
bottom
down
line
that
is
rabbit.
the system's broken all along the line, and it's not going to get fixed anytime soon. You know, it's always there's a wonderful Celtic rune called Haglas, disruption. And before you can have clarity, you always need disruption. It's like shaking everything up, and the old cream coming to the top type of thing. And it's
Yeah,
the other thing we've also got to realize as human beings, we're all here on a journey. We're all here in that discovery of who we are, why we are, what we're here to do, what's our contribution. And we do need to take some responsibility for our own lives. We can't dictate what happens to us, but we can turn it around and make it happen for us by learning from it, becoming stronger because of it, and maybe using it to a catalyst to being something better in life. That is our choice. I feel that we've very, very much gone into the pointy society. It's the government, it's this, it's that. There's three fingers pointing back at you and say, but where's your responsibility?
absolutely, absolutely. We're only going to become as strong as each of us
Mhm.
works on ourselves. I mean, it's now not a choice, whether to do kind of the things that I was mentioning, aromatherapy or meditation or all of these things. A lot of people think of that as just frou-frou, oh yeah,
I know.
if I have time, I'll, that sounds good. But, when I get time, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Right. And it's now become a necessity, really.
Yes, yes. I mean, there are so many different modalities. I mean, you talked about meditation earlier, or just simply removing yourself from the stress with music, going for a walk, be out in nature. There are so many things that we can do that can just calm us down and center ourselves. And in that center, we have more clarity in what to do and what not to do. We're more observant and we're less reactionary and more responding. But we have to find out where do I get my balance from? Where do I get my equilibrium from? And sometimes that requires a bit of a journey to explore this modality, that modality before you find it. But that's our responsibility to discover that, right?
Yes, yes. And I'm glad you mentioned nature, because that is one of the easiest things,
Yes,
to
free.
get to. They're free,
Yes,
and one of the most calming things
yes,
and grounding things. And yes, some people might think, oh, meditation, I don't know how to do that. That's too hard. But, just listening to calming music, just,
yes.
there are lots of things.
We'll walk in nature, walk in the forest, walk along the shores, we'll walk around a lake, swimming in the lake. All of that is totally free. And
Yes,
it has an abundance of beautiful energy that it can give you.
absolutely. Absolutely. We just have to make the commitment to ourselves. I mean, of course, COVID has it's made it a little harder for us, because it's kind of, it's, it made us feel a little less, made us feel a little helpless, and made us feel less in charge of our destiny. But okay, we can acknowledge that and move on and do things.
Exactly. But the thing is look at it as a redirect. Look at it as a pause in your life. Where do we get the pause? We had the pause. Well, this was the time to reflect. The amount of people that I've interviewed that have said, I was on that treadmill of working
Yes.
18 hours a day,
Yes.
flying here, doing this and doing that. Along came COVID, the greatest gift for me, because now I just do the calls by Zoom and surf in between, right?
Exactly.
And people
Exactly.
redirected, and some people went entirely in different directions that they never would have had. The thing is, even in disaster, there's always an opportunity. There are always possibilities, but
Yes.
we have to have our mindset looking for those possibilities and not feeding the doom and gloom, because what you feed is what's going to grow.
Yes, absolutely. It's true. Yes, it has been. I've seen it as I mean, of course, I'm sure we both feel terrible for all the people who died. It's not about that.
Exactly.
But I think, one should be grateful to still be alive and change
Yes.
one's life in a positive way. Use this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Gratitude is a
Absolutely.
huge medicine, I think, in itself. I think if you can wake up in the morning and say, thank you, I'm awake. I didn't
Yes.
die in my sleep. I have the opportunity of another day before me, and
Yes.
meet it with some enthusiasm.
Yes.
I have some physical disabilities, and sometimes it takes me harder to get out of bed. But I still got out of bed. I still have opportunities in front of me today, things that I love to do. And it's feed what you can do, not what you've been told you can't do.
Right. Right. Yes.
Then you won't take the anger and the bitterness, because what happens with anger and bitterness, then seeking revenge? And the hate steps in and the violence will follow. And there is no reasoning then with people who have stepped into that violent realm.
Yes. Once you, let yourself get to that point. I mean, and that is part of it too, that because we don't really know what the new normal is going to be.
Right.
That's a big part of it, because people are afraid, they think that we're like on a cliff, that we're going to fall off, that when COVID ends,
Yes.
there's nothing. We're just going to fall off. So that's fueling a lot of people too.
I think we're more on a conveyor belt. Drop up at the other end.
Yeah, right. That's right. So, that's part of it too. Like some people are, and PTSD, of
Right.
course, a lot of people are suffering from that because of COVID and so on. And part of one of the symptoms is you feel like you have a foreshortened future. So that's why a lot of these people are acting out in crazy ways, whether it's shooting or other kinds of violent ways, or even in their own life. Like lots of people are getting divorced.
Yes.
Now, when they were cooped up together, they realized, wait a second,
I don't like you. It was all right 10 minutes a day.
Exactly. So, so there's a lot going on, and we really have to take responsibility for ourselves and doing the things that will make each of us healthier. I mean, really, we should be looking at this as a big opportunity, not only because of what we were talking about with COVID and Zoom and all of that, but it's like an opportunity to change, to create the life that you want. Because so many things are upside down that, you have an opportunity now that to do, maybe, I tell people, like, whatever they want it to be. A lot of times, I mean, when people wanted to be something in life, when they were a kid, and then their parents told them, well, be sensible. I wanted to be I'm from New York and city, and I wanted to be a Broadway musical actress.
Yes.
And my parents said, that's, how are you going to make money doing that? That's too hard. I mean, I'm not sorry. I then read Freud and wanted to be a psychiatrist, so it's okay. But I'm just saying, like, a lot of people, had some kind of a dream that, I mean, maybe it's too late for them to be a ballerina, but they could be doing something that comes back to whatever it was that they wanted to be, even if it's as a hobby.
Yeah.
So, so people should look for that, and
or they've got a new dream.
Or they have
a new dream. Don't, please. I mean, part of the reason for depression, and it is the fact that you've stopped dreaming. It's the stop that you stop pursuing life. You're just on the treadmill of life, and you're miserable, but you don't know how to get off.
Right.
And you don't know how to get off and pursue something else. And along comes the cosmic 2x4, which COVID was.
Yes.
And it's thrown a lot of people off that treadmill. And it's like, well, don't be in a hurry to get back on the treadmill.
Yes.
This is the opportunity to take a new path. And I think we could look at that, everybody around the world, whatever doo-doo is going on in the world at the present moment, is that we're the ones that created this mess around the world. All the dysfunction is not the earth, not the animals, it is us, human beings. If we have had the power to be so destructive, why do we not have the power to be more loving and caring?
We do.
And again, that comes up to us individually, doesn't it?
Yes, we can only give as much love as we love ourselves. I mean, I know it's like trite and all that, but not when you think that loving yourself really means doing some of that work of putting things into yourself that you love about yourself, and I mean, it's just like I was saying with the violence, the more we consume, the more aggressive we become, the more things that we do to ourselves to that make ourselves proud of ourselves, or we're kind to ourselves in various ways, the more love we have to give other people.
We are the love we seek. We are the peace we seek. We are the abundance we seek. And I think if we stop living an outside life and started living an inside life, in other words, being connected, mind, heart, body, and soul, having a conscious, like if you're in a state of love, you can't really knowingly go and harm anyone else because it really is harming you when you do so. If we could step into that consciousness, I think we would see less hate, less violence, and more people wanting to come together as a whole. I draw the analogy of discover what your instrument is, learn how to play it, then find an orchestra to join, and in harmony, create a symphony that resonates out with everyone.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that.
So what instrument are we? And it's not for someone else to play it. It's what
accordion when I was younger. That was my parents' idea.
I know.
There aren't too many orchestras.
You're right, exactly. Well, you never know. You can always create one. But I think there's a good point there, though, is that we want our children to be safe and secure. But ultimately, we're custodians of our children. We don't own them. We're here to guide them forward in life. We need to recognize what their aptitudes are, where the gifts are of our children, how to nurture those gifts, let them explore this and that. And if they fall, they can come back to your loving arms. We need to prepare them to stand on their own 2 feet and have the skills to adjust when things go wrong or to pursue something and know where there's an opportunity, to prepare them to go fishing themselves, right? And not say, well, I want you to be this and I want you to be that. Let them discover for themselves, but be supportive.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
So depression over
everybody. So now we're
So what's your prediction right now with the Roe versus Wade? They're saying come November, that's the mantra right now, come November, we'll get back at you in the voting ballot.
That's of course, I know that's what they're saying. And that, I said at the beginning that I'm a Republican, and except that I don't agree with their stance on Roe v. Wade, their stance on abortions, just like they were against being mandated to take vaccines, as I was. I'm still not vaccinated. I'm very, and as I see the things are coming out now about some of the reactions that they hid from us, the side effects and so on, I am very grateful that I didn't get vaccinated. But in any case, so it's really unfortunate that I think it is going to bite the butt of a lot of Republicans at the state, well, at various levels, the overturning of Roe v. Wade. And I think that is unfortunate because we do need, there are a lot of other things in America in addition to Roe v. Wade, and where that need changing.
Yes.
So I think it would be a lot better if we did have more Republicans in office. And it's unfortunate that, especially the timing of it, it's unfortunate that this happened now. It's unfortunate that it happened, period. And it's unfortunate that it happened now, so close to the November elections.
The universe gave me a saying a few years ago: the universe is going to shake us up, to wake us up, for us to step up, to change it up and to grow up vibrationally, and just grow up as a human race. Right. And I think we've definitely been shaken. A lot of us are standing up. A lot of people have already changed it up. And the growing up vibrationally, which is, being on just a higher frequency of kindness, caring, and love, but also grow up. It's not always about you. It's about us. How can I be that great instrument in that orchestra? I don't want to sound like the violin with the bad strings, the one that makes the teeth cringe. I want to bring my best foot to that orchestra so that we can collectively together create music that is harmonious. I would love to see more of us step up to our own responsibility and then become that instrument that can join an orchestra, that we can come together. We know divide only conquers everybody. We've really got to start listening, learning, and put the egos away, put the self-righteousness away, and sit down and talk to each other as hearts and souls, as human beings.
The longer we don't do that, the longer we let what's happening continue to happen, the divisions, all kinds of divisions, the harder it's going to be to fix it. So
Yes.
We have to start working today.
And that means start working on yourself.
Right.
Yes, there's a whole lot of crap going on out there, folks. I know you're feeling saturated. You're feeling like an elephant sat down on you, right? But you can get back up. Just tickle the elephant. It'll stand back up, right? Go and do something. Like I remember a friend.
Give a feather.
Yeah,
like Dumbo. Give the elephant a feather.
Fly. Yeah. But I remember a friend of mine that got cancer, and he didn't want to go the radiation way or anything else. And he found out, the B17 formula, which is called the cyanide vitamin. It's all the berries, and it's so high, and it like a Pac-Man goes after cancer. And all he watched was funny movies and funny shows.
Yes.
And he beat his cancer because our immune system is so utterly wonderful,
Yes.
but it needs energy, positive energy, not negative energy, because that breaks it down, positive energy to build it back up again. And I think this is what we need a dose of right now. We need some damn good comedians out there that are going to lift us up. That's the only way I can watch American news, is actually watching comedians, because it's too depressing otherwise.
Yes, absolutely. It's like Norman Cousins. That's how he cured himself of a life-threatening illness. He was in the hospital, and he had funny movies and TV shows playing 24/7.
Yeah. Everything is possible.
And C and B and all that.
Yeah, exactly. There are so many nutritionals out there that our body does need. It does need, because we're lacking in the real substance in our food.
Yes.
Right. So we do need to take those supplements that are going to give us what we're lacking. And a great deal, I'm sure you see this, a lot of depression and anxiety. Well, anxiety, I think, is exterior, everything that's going on, but a lot of depression can come about through deficiencies in the body. So sometimes just by boosting up what you need, vitamin B and a few other things, we can start getting our equilibrium out. And for me, music is the thing. I can just put these on, listen to the music. You can actually feel the frequency change your equilibrium inside. So find what it is for you that takes you outside of yourself and rejuvenates yourself, helps you rebalance, because now you'll have more clear thought in order how to move forward. We can't make decisions when we're depressed.
Yes, absolutely.
So share with everybody how they can get hold of you, your podcasts, where you're all at, etc.
Okay. Well, one of my websites is terroristtherapist.com. And my latest book, Lions and Tigers and Terrorists, Oh My, How to Protect Your Child in a Time of Terror, is an autographed copy you can get from there. Of course, it's on Amazon, but I also have a website, expertwitnessforensic-psychiatrist.com, because I do that work. And I'm on Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook, but Twitter, my handle is @Dr. Carol MD, and Carol is CAROLE, @Dr. Carol MD. I wake up in the morning and I go to various news outlets, and I find the thing that makes me the most furious at the world, enraged at how crazy we're getting. And I posted on Twitter, just to sort of make people, like I do a psychological take on it, make people realize why this is bad, or what we should do. Or today I posted about the woman, the mother of the child who had the abortion, who was defending the rapist.
Right.
So I said, mystery.
Yes.
Something's wrong with this picture.
And I think we've also got to stop saying, well, it's their problem.
Mm.
It isn't, because if it affects your community, if it affects society as a whole, if it's affecting your country, it's a poison that keeps on going because we keep ignoring it. And we have to, as a society, step up and go, this isn't right. What are we going to do to put it right? And that means going to the very core of things. And that is supporting the families right at the word go, at the pregnancy, before they get married, or don't get married. It is our educational system. Everything needs an overhaul. And I think what we need first is a hell of a big dose of kindness towards one another.
Yes, I totally agree.
Well, on that note,
because let me just add, because you don't know what a person is going through, whether you see them in line in the supermarket, or in a car next to you when you're both at a stoplight, wherever or wherever you see somebody, you come up with an idea of what their life is like and who they are and so on, but you don't know what they're dealing with. They could be dealing with they might look good on the outside, but they could be dealing with lots of problems on the inside.
And you also don't know the effect of a smile. Hi, how are you doing today? That acknowledgement. We're not acknowledging each other anymore. We're all walking around with blinkers. How about a smile? Great weather. Have you heard this? Da, 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 da. It's acknowledgement. Because I think one of the other things, there is a massive amount of lonely people, and there's nothing worse about being lonely in a crowd and feeling you're not seen and you're not heard. Let us start connecting with one another, even just to say, hi, have a great day, and a big smile. You have no idea how impactful it can be.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for sharing here today.
Yeah, I enjoyed it immensely. Thank you.
And everyone out there, there's so much out there that we need to dig deeper into and understand. Please don't just buy the first thing you see on social media. If it doesn't feel right, do your own investigation, really do your own research. Bottom line is understand that you are the problem. You are also the solution. When we change our own lives and take responsibility for our own lives with the help of people like Dr. Carol, we actually can be part of that wonderful equation of putting this world back right. And we need to do that because we're not on a very good spiral right now. It's down. We need to bring it back up, love and kindness, and our own importance of self, not self-importance, that's narcissism, but importance of self, importance of your own well-being. And when you are feeling wonderful and your cup runneth over, you're helping everyone else. So it's an imperative that you're willing to take that journey for yourself. Until next time, folks, bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show. Find all of our shows on selfdiscoverymedia.com under podcasts or selfdiscoverymedia/shows. And for all our current shows, go to What's New. We are supported by you, the audience. You'll see a nice big shiny blue button for one-time donations, or follow us on Patreon and you will be able to support us there. We enjoy bringing you such wisdom. And the next show will be up in just a moment.